As coaster enthusiasts, we think we know everything, but we don't. That's only mostly true. There are still some things, major and minor, that we learn all the time. For example, I made a whole video about the coasters of SeaWorld parks and included the one in Australia.
Idiot!
So it happens, you live and learn, and I want to talk about what I learned this year. From all my coaster travels this year, international and domestic, these are my revelations of 2024. I hardly ever travel outside the summer months, but since I started leaving the country to ride coasters, sometimes winter here is summer there. That was the case when I went to Australia back in January. Going to a new country for the first time is very eye-opening. You have to get used to the way things work in different places, and for the most part, it's fascinating and fun. Some basic revelations from traveling to Australia. First, international layovers suck. I guess I knew this from last year, landing in Stockholm on my way to Copenhagen, almost missing my connector because of a huge line for passport checks and having to go back through security. But here I am, thinking it was cool to have a layover in both directions in Fiji, and man, what an enormous pain that was. Domestic layovers are no fun. International layovers are even worse. Some people say the water goes down the drain the other direction, the Coriolis effect, but none of the toilets or sinks work that way. I guess you can only see that at a macro level, like lakes and oceans, not in individual sinks. You also have driving on the left side of the road. That was the first time I'd see that in person, and luckily I was the passenger and not the driver, but sitting on the left side of the car and not driving, and driving on the left side of the road after 36 years of the American way, that's a trip. Finally, my last non-coaster related Australian revelation. I got to learn how to play cricket and even went to a Big Bash League playoff game in Brisbane. It took us watching one match on TV and the Google machine to learn the basic rules, and once you get it, it's a lot of fun. Once we got to Luna Park in the heart of Sydney, I knew Wild Mouse wasn't going to be open. It was undergoing a major renovation. What I did not expect was for the Wild Mouse to be gone. I walked all the way around the park and thought it was so weird I couldn't find it. Well, turns out, it was on top of this building, and when I was there, it just wasn't. When I rode the Ferris wheel, I could see the footprint, and even though I gave up on riding it a couple months before, I thought I was at least going to be able to see it. We didn't have a car in Sydney, but we had one on the Gold Coast, and that's where I found Australian parks don't charge for parking. I mentioned how smart it was to charge people for parking, even using that as a tool to get people to buy a season pass. But apparently, that has not reached Australia yet, and I hope it never does. Paying for parking sucks, and that was one less thing to worry about. When I walked up to the ticket booth at Movie World, the cashier asked me about my stay, and instead of buying a one-day ticket, I got a 3-day ticket. This is good at all the Village Roadshow parks in the area, and that includes SeaWorld. On the Gold Coast, you have Movie World, SeaWorld, and Dream World. Those are your 3 main parks and they're all very close to each other. So, let's face it, if you're visiting the Gold Coast, you're going to all 3 parks in a row. This was awesome because it saved me some money. My ticket got me into Movie World and SeaWorld all 3 days. So, after leaving SeaWorld and Dream World, I came back to Movie World and got some more rides. The parks aren't open late, even in the summer, but since these parks only have a few coasters, I did have some extra time to get those bonus rides on DC Rivals. Australia is also very strict about loose articles on their coasters. On pretty much every major ride, you can't have anything in your pocket. This was especially bad on DC Rivals. They watch you like a hawk to make sure there's nothing in your pockets whatsoever. Superman has free lockers at the start of the queue. You can't bring anything to the station. Aside from that, these coasters do have bins on the station platforms. You can put your stuff on the side, but I don't want to put my phone and my wallet and my keys in a bin, especially when I'm out of the country. I'd rather have it zipped in my pocket, but that's not an option. At all 3 parks in the Gold Coast, we got an all-day locker, rode everything, and then went and got our stuff after. That's not ideal, but it's what you have to do thanks to these rules. All this made it harder to ride DC Rivals backwards. I thought I could just pay for a ticket and ride. A few years ago, this was only $10 Australian, now it was $30. That was a not so fun revelation, but it figures they jack up the price. I also couldn't just buy a ticket for the Village Roadshow parks. At Dream World, I did just buy one at the gift shop to ride the spinning back car of Steel Taipan. But at Movie World and SeaWorld, to ride their big coasters backwards, you had to install the app and pay for it there. So just be aware of that if you stash your phone and want to get a backwards ride, you're going to need to get that back. Last one for Australia. I didn't expect Dream World to be that awesome. On the surface, it looks like any other amusement park, but then you see it has a whole wildlife section in the back. It has a flying theater, the first one I've been on outside of a Disney park, and the people who work there were so much nicer than the other parks. This place is legit, and it makes more sense why it was so expensive to get in. Back to the USA, and the first park we went to was Beach Bend. The tickets for this park run about $50 for one day. So I do what I always do. Try to see if it's better to buy a season pass and use the benefits. You can use one of your free friend passes right away, and you also have access to your discount friend tickets. We had 3 paying customers, so instead of paying $150 for 3 one-day tickets, I paid $85 for my pass, $28 for a discount friend ticket, and got 1 free friend ticket, so I paid $113 instead of $150. Not bad. This rarely works, but once in a while, you'll find the season pass plus benefits trick will save you money. Moving on to Kentucky Kingdom. This was the first time I've been here since Hershin took over the park in 2021. Hershin runs both Dollywood and Silver Dollar City, and those parks are known for their amazing cinnamon bread. I was so happy to see this being introduced to Kentucky Kingdom, and me and the girls can't pass that up. It's something like $10 or $11 a loaf, but it makes everyone so happy and it's worth it. Then we went to Kings Island, and in the past, when you bought a season pass, you had to get it processed at the park. I think that's still the case for Six Flags, but I was happy to see for Cedar Fair, you can do everything in the app. Enter your barcode number, upload your own picture, and bam, right there, you got your season pass on your phone. This was important to me because I plan on getting to Kings Island really late in the first night, trying to get my first night ride on the Beast, and I didn't know if they'd processed my pass an hour before the park closed. Speaking of that Beast night ride, after all these years, I finally found myself at the park at night with the Beast open. The whole time I was there, I was thinking, I gotta make sure I get in line before they close the line. It doesn't get dark at Kings Island in the summer until like 9:45 p.m., so your window to ride at night is pretty slim. I did not realize how official this process was. As long as you're in line before 10 p.m., you can ride. The ride is shut down for fireworks leading up to park close, and they reboot the ride about 20 minutes after close. I should have known Kings Island had a process for this, as organized as they always seem to be. That day, I also got my first front row ride on Banshee, and I'm so used to this ride having a rattle, but in the front it was perfectly smooth. I rode toward the front on Afterburn at Carowinds also, and unlike the back where I normally am, it was crazy glossy smooth. So, the front of these inverts is the place to be if you don't want to get shook up. On the other hand, I rode Lightning Racer in the front for the first time, and that was the roughest ride I've ever gotten on it, so go figure. We then took off to Kennywood, and it was the first time I brought my girls to the park. Therefore, it was the first time I got to experience some of the non-coaster rides, and the first time I went into the award-winning Noah's Ark, the walkthrough attraction that rocks like a boat the whole time, full of animals and trippy elements, and this thing is really a gem. I shouldn't say hidden gem because everyone knows about Noah's Ark, but on my 3rd trip to the park I finally went on this and it was really cool. Going on to the East Coast, we went to Great Adventure for its 50th anniversary, and where Kings Island and Worlds of Fun was full of awesome merch when they turned 50, Great Adventure had next to nothing. They had a 50th anniversary gift shop and they had some sweatshirts. The Safari had a couple shirts, but overall, the 50th anniversary merch game was very weak. I feel like that was a big missed opportunity for the park to make some money. I also learned about the park's new Safari format. Last time I was there in 2019, you just walked up to the spot in Frontier Adventures and you got to ride. Now, they require reservations if you want to board inside the park. Otherwise, they have another place where you can go to get the full Safari experience. This being in the parking lot, right under King to Cos Top Hat. This is free with your pass, or you can just pay for a Safari ticket, and you get an awesome 40-minute ride. I had no idea about this when I got there. I actually tried to get in that first day and got turned away for not having a reservation, so we came back the next day to the off-site location and walked right on. The only reason we had time for that Safari was because we didn't go to Clementon Park. This is home to Hellcat, the S&S wooden coaster that has a reputation for being the roughest thing ever. So, of course, I wanted to ride it. The night before we were supposed to go, I saw this has been down for over a year, last operating in 2022, and there are other coasters for kids, so we didn't bother going. I should have done my homework beforehand, but luckily, I found out what was going on the night before. It was just a reminder to always check on park hours when you plan your trip, and if there's only one ride you're going for, make sure that ride's open. That night, I went to Sesame Place for the first time, making use of my SeaWorld pass. And before we even got inside the park, security made us throw away our little glass bottles of essential oils. We used this to keep the mosquitoes away, and this was a full week and a half into our trip, and the first park to complain about these little glass bottles. So, if you ever go to Sesame Place, be careful what you're packing in your bag. Inside the park, Oscar's Wacky Taxi did not disappoint. That's my favorite Gravity Group family coaster, but Vapor Trail was not what I expected. I thought this was just a ride for kids, but this custom Vekoma Jr. coaster was an absolute positive G-force machine. So, it's weird to say, but if you come to Sesame Place, neither of their coasters are really for small kids. They're both small but mighty. The next day, we went to Dutch Wonderland, the little family park in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. A park I've heard so much about in the past, but kind of wrote off as a kids park and never made time for it. But this place is really quite impressive. It's won multiple Golden Ticket Awards for Best Family Park. They have 3 coasters everyone can enjoy. They have really good shows. They have a sky ride, a train. It was expensive to get in, but they have something really cool going on here. Later that day, we went to Adventure Park USA, a park I knew existed in Maryland, but I had no idea what it was aside from that. Turns out, this place is just like Scandia. I got to visit the one in Ontario before it closed in 2019, but this is mostly an arcade. It's got an amusement park in the back, and they use a rotating staff. The ride ops will follow you around and operate the rides you want to ride. They even have signs where you can text the ride to a number and the ops know where to go next. So, we rode the coasters, got a ride in the carousel, and had an awesome time at the arcade. Don't pass this place up, especially if you have kids. One of the coasters at Adventure Park USA is Tumbleweed, this very janky portable oval kids coaster, and I love this so much. I kid you not, this was the smoothest, most gentle kids coaster we rode on the trip. If you watch my vlog series, I try to get Amy on every coaster she can ride, and almost all of them were Zamperla gravity coasters. These are basic, a drop, a helix, a turn back to the station, but some of these coasters have a jolt at the top of the lift. All of them are very jerky around the turns, and when you're dealing with a 2 or 3-year-old, they don't have a lot of neck control. I really wish the smallest kids coasters weren't so jerky. The kids would enjoy them a lot more. After this, we went on to Six Flags America, a park that never fails to let me down. Until now. Up to this point, this park was all about closed rides, breakdowns, slow ops. Just not a very well run park, and a park that doesn't get good investments from the top. This year, everything was open except for Roar. The coasters were all running well. We didn't run into many breakdowns. They did have the jerkiest kids coaster I've ever seen, but in the end, I came away from Six Flags America with a new respect. I was impressed, and after my last few times there, I wasn't sure if that was possible. The last park on my road trip was Dollywood, and we went on a Saturday, and that was not ideal. Absolutely slammed. I had to spring for the time saver pass. That was not cheap. But really, I was there to try out Lightning Rod with the chain lift. Compared to its old launch, if it kept the same speed over the crest of the lift, everything would be great. At least I thought. Lightning Rod's chain lift was just sad. That launch was so iconic. But you know what? In the end, it was open for most of, if not the whole day. That's why Dollywood did it. They knew it wouldn't be as good, even though the marketing team tried to spin it that way. But at least we can ride it. Still, it was a buzzkill to crawl up that lift, and we lost the one thing that made Lightning Rod special. So there you go. I tried to keep this away from coaster-related revelations. You'll see those in my winners and losers video, and coasters that shot up and down videos. Those are coming next month. Let me know what you think about any of these revelations, and what you learned this year that stands out the most. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. Also, check out my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.